see your heart. Listen, you can be seated. I'm sorry. Some of y'all was like, do we sit down or what do we do? I can see your heart in everything you made. Man, that's a beautiful song. Listen, I'm excited to be here with you guys, be here with family, be here with Hill City. I'm excited because we are in a really dope series. I didn't really know what to make of it when Pastor first came up with it. But it's really dope because it points to a lot of significant moments in Scripture where you see God just doing his thing. And not just God doing his thing, but God using people that you would never expect him to use to do some huge things, right? So this is 40, and 40 is a real significant number, or it has some significance in it. Pastor said when he started this series, it's a time of preparation. It's a time of testing. It's a time of probation. It's a time of things transitioning. And there's one particular story that I'm going to use today. And Corey, it is so much in this story. Like, this particular story is in 1 Samuel chapter 17, and it's from 1 through 57. And I was like, should I read all 57 verses this morning? I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to read all 57. But it's so much in this story that just blessed me so much. And a lot of it started blessing me last night when I was looking over my notes one more time before I went to bed. And my wife was laying down, and I'm at the edge of the bed just going, She's like, what? I'm like, there's so much in this story. I don't know if I'm going to be able to cover all of it, and I'm not even going to attempt to. But I think we could really do a series off this story alone. But we're going to go to 1 Samuel chapter 17. And for the sake of time, and for the sake of you being sick of me, I'm not going to read all 57 verses. We're going to read verse 16 and verse 32. We're going to dabble back into a few of the other ones. But we're going to start with 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 16. So before we do that, this is the story about David and Goliath, okay? And I'm pretty sure we're all familiar. If you're familiar with the story, let me see by a show of hands how many's familiar. Cool, so David and Goliath, it's a very famous, familiar story, and we pretty much know what happens and what goes down. But there's a few things that I want us to take away from this story. And my goal this morning is to encourage you in the face of fear, encourage you in the face of trials, encourage you in the face of hard times, because David was that man in this story, right? So we know how this story, so Jesse has some sons. He sent a few of his sons to go be with the Israelite army, and they was going to fight the Philistines. He did not send David initially. He just sent his older sons. So they're going to fight this battle, and we know the story. They get to their point of war, and they see the Philistine army, and they see Goliath, this 9-foot-tall giant. He comes from this army, and he's taunting and strutting, talking big man stuff. You know what I'm saying? Who wouldn't talk big man stuff when you're 9 foot tall? I mean, I'll probably be talking a bunch of trash if I'm 9 foot tall. Not only that, but the dude was wearing his armor, and his armor was an additional, they said his breastplate was an additional 125 pounds. He carried a sword that was about 15 pounds. I'm talking about this dude is strutting and taunting and walking like this is normal. I'll be talking a lot of trash if I'm doing that. 9 foot tall, and I'm carrying this type of weight on me as clothes, this is just my armor, and I'm just strutting my stuff. 9 foot tall. So he immediately puts fear into the Israelite army. Immediately. They scared. They're like, look, anybody can see that he's getting ready to demolish us. So they're scared. The whole army is scared. So I'm cutting across the field because, like I said, it's a lot to this story. So while they're off, Jesse sends David to go check on his brothers, and he said, get them some food, and I want you to take this to them. So Jesse leaves his post, and his post was taking care of the goats and the sheep. He was a shepherd. And he goes to look after his brothers and make sure they got what they need, just to check them out, to make sure they're good. And he comes into a scared camp. They are fearful. They are scared. They are livid. They don't know what to do. So I want to show y'all what they see and what David's response was. That's what these two passages are, these two verses that we're going to read. So verse 16 says this. It says, for 40 days, every morning and evening, the Philistine champion strutted in front of the Israelite army, right? This is what they see. They see a 9-foot-tall soldier strutting his stuff, talking big man stuff, putting fear into this army. This was David's response. And I'm passing up a lot of things, but like I said, we're going to go back and forth to some. And verse 32 says, David said, don't worry about this Philistine. David told Saul, I'll go fight him. Now, mind you, again, this soldier is 9 foot tall. David is scrawny. He's a shepherd. He takes out the sheep and goat. He's not a soldier. But his response to this 9 foot tall giant was, don't worry about it. I got him. What was it about David that made him so courageous and so confident and so sure that he was going to beat a 9-foot giant? What was it about David that we can take from him? Because our giant may not be a 9-foot-tall person, right? Our giant could be so many, and we are facing or have faced or will face some giants in our life. There's one that we can all collectively agree on, COVID-19. I mean, it was the second week of March last year, and I'm expecting to go back to work, and I get a phone call at 9 saying, yeah, you won't be back for a couple weeks. At first, it was a couple weeks. It ended up being 2.5 months. And we probably all remember when the pandemic hit, right? Immediately, this was a giant. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't know how things were going to play out. And then when they shut the world down, we was like, what are we going to do? Business owners was like, there goes my parishioners. There goes the people that buy what I sell. Even franchises was like, man, we got to figure out a system to get food to people, and they can't even come to us. Medical offices, hospitals, everything was going crazy. COVID-19 was a giant, y'all. And it still is. It still is. They talking about the variant, and they talking about all this other stuff. Whether you believe in COVID-19 or not, you are living in this world with us, and we are all facing this together. So COVID-19 is something we can all agree on. That's a giant in this world. But that may not be a giant. Financial hardship may be a giant. Issues in marriage may be a giant. Depression may be your giant, right? These are some things that we're facing. And in the scripture, it says that this 9-foot-tall giant, Goliath, was taunting the Israelite army. He was strutting his stuff, and he was talking big man stuff, and this dude was just walking back and forth saying, what y'all gonna do to me? Like, I'm getting ready to demolish y'all. Who is one person y'all can send out right now to come and fight me, because I'm getting ready to show y'all why y'all should be scared of me, right? Goliath is just going crazy. He's just saying what he needs to say. And the army is just scared of him. He's just taunting him. And our giants taunt us too. When you go to sleep, you're thinking about it. When you wake up, you're thinking about it. As you go through your day, you're thinking about it. And the more you think about it, the more you're scared, the more it puts fear into you, the more you're worried, your anxiety starts going high. You start to slip into depression. You start to have, moments where you just get too frustrated and too overwhelmed because you're thinking about an issue. You used to be the top performer at work, but because you're having issues at home, your boss is like, what's going on? You're not performing at a high level like you normally do. That's if you got a boss to care about you. That's right. That's right. So they're like, you're not doing what you normally do because there's a giant in my life, and I can't seem to shake it. I can't seem to defeat it. I don't know what I'm going to do to defeat it. And for some of us, just being honest, some of us have been facing the same giant for years. It ain't like it's a new giant every day. No, some of us have been taunted by the same giant for years. Because the scripture says he was taunting and strutting his stuff for 40 days, morning and night. He was letting them know, yeah, y'all need to be scared of me. I'm going to be in your face in the morning, and I'm going to be in your face when you go to sleep. I'm going to be in your dreams. And that's how some of our giants treat us. But what was it about David? David that was confident enough to say, I can take him down. Yeah, I know he's bigger than me. I know he's 9 foot tall. Clear, anybody in their right mind could look at David and look at Goliath and be like, yeah, it's over for David. It's ain't nothing about to go down. This ain't even a fight. I'm putting all my money on Goliath. But what was it about David that we can learn when it comes to facing our giants and facing fear? What is it about David that we can really learn about when it comes to facing what we deal with and what taunts us for so long? So like I said, we have our own giants, but there's something that we can learn from David when it comes to facing our giants. And there's a few things for my note takers that I want you to write down. And here's what I learned from David. Here's what I learned from David. Here's one of the things he did. He silenced the voices that fed the fear. Now, mind you, David was not out in the war field. He wasn't out there for 40 days, so he wasn't hearing what they was hearing. David was too busy serving and working. Wasn't thinking about no giant. He probably wasn't even that concerned about his brothers out at war. He was worried about these sheep and these goats, and I'm doing what my father told me to do. He wasn't no voices of fear. But even when David showed up, he still didn't allow Goliath's voice to put fear into him. He silenced the voices that feed the fear. Now, I've already addressed it, but I'm going to address it one more time. For some of us, COVID-19 is a fear. And for some of us, it's a fear because we give our ear to every outlet that is talking about it. You don't know the source of the outlet. You don't know what's true or not. You allow other people who don't give a dang about COVID-19, you let them come in and say what they need to say. You let the news come in and say what they need to say. You got other people say what they need to say. You allowing every outlet to feed your fear. Now listen, precaution and fear are two totally different things. And I'm not just speaking about COVID-19. I'm speaking about the other giants that we need to do. Sometimes if you have a financial hardship, there may be an opportunity for you to be like, okay, maybe we need to downsize here. We need to save our money here. We need to put our money here. We can't go out and spend like we used to. We can't do all this type of stuff. Precaution and fear are two totally different things. As it pertains to COVID-19, precaution is wash your hands, stay out of crowded places, wear your mask if it's mandatory. Fear is buying up all the toilet paper in the store. You ain't precaution at this point. You scared. I'm walking in the store to get toilet paper and see people walking out with 10 rolls of it. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? I got to wipe my butt too. Precaution is saying, listen, let's just do what we need to do. This is not going to stop us being a family. It's not going to stop us being human. It's not going to stop us from enjoying life. Yes, we were used to eating out and having fun and doing all these type of things, but now we got to work around and do some things a different way. So let's just take precaution, do what we need to do. First of all, some of the precaution was basic hygiene. You should have been already doing that. You should have been washing your hands every time you touch something. You should have been already taking baths. You should have already been cleaning your house down. COVID forced spring cleaning on some of y'all because some of y'all wasn't even worried about no baseboards in y'all's house. So precaution and fear is two totally different things. I respect precaution. I understand precaution. As the leader of my home, I had to take precaution. I had to say, babe, kids, this is what we're going to do. I understand we can't do this, that, and the third, but this is what we can do. Let's work with that, and let's keep moving. That's taking precaution. Precaution is understanding that this may put fear in some people, but I'm not going to be the one that adds into that. Precaution is I respect what other people feel and say about this particular virus. I don't need to argue with them. If anything, fear motivates the argument. Because I begin to worry about people who really want to argue about the virus. I'm like, why are you First of all, don't argue with me because I'm not going to argue back. I'm just not. I'm not about to give you that time or that energy. It's really no point. I'm going to look at you in your face and be like, are you done? Because I'm not going to say nothing back to you. Because I understand other people have different theories and they have different ideas. They have different solutions. They have different cures. I haven't seen so many doctors in my life. And it's been a growth, an influx of doctors this past year. I'm like, wow, when did you get a degree? This is crazy. But because if you allow this to boggle your mind, and every time you get on Facebook, you're looking at more information and more news and more this, and let me see what this person's saying, let me see what this person's saying. You're doing nothing but feeding fear. You're not feeding precaution, you're feeding fear. And when you get into those debacles in the comment section, what are you doing? This ain't saving none of us. This ain't changing anything. We just arguing. We just letting our pride just spill all over social media. But that was one thing David did. He silenced the voice of fear. He wasn't tripping about Goliath. He wasn't tripping about what he was saying. Matter of fact, David was plotting. David was over with the other soldiers. He was like, all right, cool. Let me know what's the reward for killing this dude. Is it some money? Because, I could use a couple extra dollars. What's the reward? Y'all let me know what it is. And I could just picture David just chilling with the other, just kind of asking some basic questions. What's the reward for killing this dude? Okay. Writing it down. Okay. And then they said his family would be exempt from taxes. Wait a minute. That was one of the rewards. That was one of the rewards if you beat this giant. If you kill this giant, your family will be exempt from taxes. That was probably David's main motivation right there. I'm like, oh man, y'all scared of this dude? Exempt from, I'm scared of taxes. I ain't scared of this dude. So they said he was exempt from taxes. So then David's older brother Eliab, he says, bro, what are you doing, man? You ain't even supposed to be down here. He said, dog, I'm just asking questions. Dad told me to come down here and make sure y'all had some food and just to check up on y'all and make sure y'all good. But I get down here and y'all scared. And you telling me if we beat this guy, we get to be exempt from taxes? Yeah, it's going down. I don't know how, but it's going down. So David even got to his brother to a point where he had convinced him and said, all right, go. If you choose to get your block knocked off, you go ahead and do your thing. You go ahead and do it. So David wasn't listening to the voices that was feeding to the fear. The army was 40 days, 40 nights. They kept listening to this giant, and they allowed his voice to determine how they feel about the fight. These are trained soldiers. These are people who are ready for battle. And one soldier puts fear in a whole army. And one little boy comes and says, don't worry about it. I got it. What else was it about David that can help us face our giants? And let me stick on that first point real quick one more time. You got to silence the voices of fear. Sometimes you're going to have to cut some relationships off because you're hanging around people and you stay on the phone with certain people for too long who ain't doing no good for your problem. They ain't doing you no good for your issue. If you having issues with marriage and you constantly got that friend telling you need to leave him, you need to leave him alone. What you need to do is take all his clothes and throw him outside. Some of us are connected to people who continuously throw gasoline on the fire. So sometimes silencing those voices is cutting off some relationships from people that's not doing no good. Because the whole time you can see hope in your marriage. You can see love in your marriage. You can see restoration coming to your marriage. But you connected to people who don't see none of that. So you throw away something that was going on for 20 years, all because of conversations you kept having for 3 weeks.
Yeah, come on.
And God is like, I'm going to bring restoration back to that relationship. I'm going to bring love back to that relationship. I'm going to bring so much beauty back to this relationship. But if they keep staying connected to people, to voices that tell them otherwise, it won't happen. So sometimes you got to cut off Facebook, cut off TV, and cut off some friends. That was one thing David did. The other thing David did was David had faith in his faithfulness. David had faith in God's faithfulness. I meant to put God, Jordan, my fault. David had faith in God's faithfulness. In verse 37, we don't have to read it. I'm going to just give you a synopsis of it, brief. In verse 37, David reminded his brother. He was like, bro, when I'm looking after these sheep and goat, I had to fight off lions and bears with my bare hands. And listen, David was so dope, he had a strategic to how he was fighting. He said, if the animal got a hold of me, I would grab him by the jaw and then club him to death. Dude was a street fighter. He didn't have no techniques. He just knew I need to pick up something and I'm going to keep banging this animal in the head until he's gone. He said, dude, this ain't the first time I'm about to see God move. This ain't the first time I've been faced with something bigger and stronger than me. This ain't the first time. I got history with God.
Yeah, come on.
I got history with him. This ain't the first time. No, I get it. We human. So when COVID-19 popped up, it did put some fear in us. We didn't know what we was going to do, especially for some business owners. You know, you got customers, your business was booming. But now COVID-19 hit and you don't know what you're going to do. Some businesses fail. Some churches closed their door. Some people life was bad for a lot of people. So I get it. You're human. You didn't know what to do. You were scared. You was unsure. But what David had to do, because don't get me wrong, David's a little boy. When he saw this giant, he was probably like, whoa. I mean, a lion's big, but this dude is 9 foot tall. So I would have to be realistic and say that David's initial feeling when he saw this giant was like, yo, this dude is big. I don't know how I'm going to fight this dude. But then David had to remind himself that this won't be the first time that God got me out of something. This won't be the first time that God gave me the confidence. He had faith in his faithfulness. He had faith in what God has done over and over and time again. And there's some people in here who have history with God. I've seen God move. And I will remind myself again that I will see him do it again because I know what my God is capable of. So he silenced the voice of fear. He had faith in the faithfulness of God. And then the last thing, he knew God was with him. He verbally said this, like that was his rebuttal to the giant. That was his rebuttal to the giant. The giant was over here clowning David. He was clowning David, and he was like, dog, what you gonna do? I came to defy the army of Israel. What are you gonna do? And David was like, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, I'm here with the Lord Almighty. I'm here with the Lord Almighty. You know what? I'm gonna change that piece right there. Instead of him knowing that God was with him, David saw God in the fight. David saw God in the fight. What Goliath didn't know was that you're not fighting David.
Come on.
You ain't fighting this little scrawny boy who looks after sheep and goats. You fighting God. And you fighting somebody who has history with God. You fighting with somebody who made it in the lion's den. Had to fight lions and bears. Oh my. I had to fight all of that. You're not just fighting some scrawny little boy that my dad did not want to send out to this war field. You're fighting the Almighty God. And that was so much encouragement to me because there's been times where I feared things. There's been times where I was scared. There's been times when I didn't know what I was going to do. Husbands, y'all could be honest. Fathers, y'all could be honest. There was times I did not know how I was going to lead my family. My family's dependent on me to make the right decision. My family is dependent on me to say the right thing. My family is dependent on me to go out first and lead the charge. My family is dependent on me to lay down the instructions of what we're going to do during this season. And the encouragement, when I saw that David saw God in the fight, it encouraged me to do the same thing. Because when you see God in the fight, you don't see loss, but you see opportunity. When you see God in the fight, you don't see things going down, you just see things shifting. When you see God in the fight, you don't see yourself as small, you see yourself bigger than anything you could possibly face. See, there was a blessing that came in COVID-19, and I'm pretty sure some of us can relate to this. There was a blessing when it came to COVID-19. I mean, think about it. You was hustling and bustling. You was doing your job. You was going to work. You was punching the clock, or you was starting your business, or you was doing it. So everybody, I mean, the house got so much traffic, that front door, in, out. Kids going to school. Kids coming back home from school. You going to work. You doing this. You going out to business meetings. You doing business trips. You doing this. You doing all of that. And then when COVID hit, all that stopped. And you ain't had no choice but to spend time with your family. For some of y'all, that's hard. For some of y'all, you thought marriage was cool. But when COVID hit, you was like, it ain't as good as I thought it was. You thought the operation of your home was running like a well-oiled machine, but when everything stopped, you was like, I don't know my son's favorite color. I don't even know what he likes. I don't even know why he does some of the quirky things that he does. I'm just getting personal just for a second. This was me. This was me. This was me thinking me and my wife was cool. We good. Everything, we good, babe. I got you. I'm on my way to work. I see you. All that. We good. And I had to stay at home now for 2.5 months. And there was things about her that I did not know. There was things about my kids that I did not know. My wife asked my older son what his favorite color was. I just knew it was blue. It was green. And blue was made up. I just said blue because at the time it was my favorite color. I knew my son. I knew my wife. I just knew that I knew who my family was. I knew what was going on. Dad knows everything about me and all this type of stuff. But when I was forced to be home with my children, I learned some things about myself and about my wife and my children that I needed to know. And it was in those moments when my perspective had shifted. Because at first my mindset was on, income. Income is getting ready to change, and we can't do this no more. We can't do that no more. How we gonna make this happen? How we gonna make this work? And not only that, on top of that, we taking care of my brother-in-law's kids. So I got extra kids in the home, and my mother-in-law's living with me. What am I gonna do in this time? But then my perspective started to shift, and it was in this time my heart and the way I saw my wife and the way I saw my children and the way I saw my home begin to change. And it was probably one of the most transformative seasons in our marriage. And it was probably one of the most transformative seasons in my children's life as a parent and as a father. Because it was a moment for me to see them. It was a moment for me I can see your heart in everything you've made. And David said, I see God in this fight. Goliath don't notice it. Goliath just sees a scrawny little boy that takes care of the sheep and the goats. But Goliath don't know that he's not just fighting a little boy, he's fighting God. He's fighting somebody who's here with God. And this fight is going to change the trajectory of my family. We ain't going to have to pay taxes no more. If I beat this dude, we not going to have to pay taxes no more. I don't know about you, but that's a shift in finances. That's a major shift in finances. So he saw God in the fight. And Josh, you can come back out here, bro. And like Corey says, you can make me sound good. Because it was so much in this story that encouraged me like crazy. There was so much in this story that encouraged me like crazy. I mean, the confidence that not only David had, but you heard it when he spoke. You never heard fear and trembling in his voice. You never heard him back down from what he was saying. You never heard him say, oh, no. You never heard him apprehensive about what he was going to do. He always spoke with confidence. And I want to encourage you, yes, you're human. So sometimes the initial feeling can be fear. The initial feeling you could be apprehensive. I don't know what I'm going to do. And there's nothing wrong with saying I don't know. Men, there's nothing wrong with saying, me saying I don't know was one of the biggest turning points in my marriage because it was what my wife needed to hear. Because when I didn't say I don't know, I was disregarding how she felt in the situation, and I was disregarding how I felt in the situation, and I was disregarding how everybody else felt in the situation. We were going through a transition period, and she was hurt. But me trying to be the man and my ego saying, we're going to be all right, we good. Don't worry about it, baby. Don't cry. Stop crying. You ain't got to cry. We're going to be good. We're going to be good. The whole time, I don't know what we get ready to do. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how it's going to be. I don't know. But we good. We're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen. You ain't got to worry about it. We're going to do this. We're going to be that. It's going to be great. Babe, it's going to be this, that, and the third. And the whole time, she's hurting. And the only thing she needed me to say was, I don't know what we're doing. I'm scared just like you. But we're going to go through this thing together. I understand and I see where you at. You see where I'm at. So let's go ahead and fight this thing together. Let's push through this thing together. Let's transition together. So men, ain't nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. That don't mean you're not going to find out. That don't mean you're never going to know. That don't mean that things won't change. That don't mean you weak. That don't mean you're not a man no more. That don't mean your masculinity has been stripped away just because you said, I don't know. If anything, ain't nothing more manly than saying, I don't know. I really don't know right now. But baby, we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out. Because let's think about it. Let's be real. When you look at David, do you think David knew how he was going to fight? First of all, the scripture says when he convinced his brother Eliab that he was going to fight, he was like, y'all, put the arm on me. Let me see how this feel. Go ahead, put the arm. And he kept getting pushed down because the armor was too heavy. And he was like, man, get this off of me. David thought he was going to fight with the armor at first. David didn't have a plan. David did not have a strategy. David did not know. He was just confident that we're going to do it. He just knew we're going to make it. He just knew at the end of this day, he's going to be dead. He just knew that I'm going to defeat this giant. And that's the place that God is trying to get you at. Listen, you do not have to know step by step how you're going to beat this thing. But just know you're going to get through it. I don't know how my marriage is going to make it to the next step. I don't know how we're going to make it to the next level. But I believe we're going to get there. I don't know how I'm going to get income back to how it's going to be or how it was or anything, but I just know we're going to get there. So I'm going to move with confidence because I have faith in the faithfulness of my God. I don't know. Men, let me just hear you say it. I don't know. No. Just say, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know how we're going to make it out of this, but we're going to make it. David didn't have a strategy. So when he put the armor on, it was too heavy. He was like, man, take this off. Give me 5 smooth rocks. And I got my slingshot. Because I was using it for them wolves and them birds out there. I'm going to just give me 5 smooth rocks, and I'm going to use my slingshot. And when he stepped to the giant looked at him and laughed and was like, how you going to fight me? You ain't even got no armor on. You ain't got none of that. David just said, look, I'm here with the Lord Almighty. And I'm going to attempt this move. I ain't never tried it before, but I'm going to attempt this move. All it took was one shot. Because David took that shot with confidence. I was talking to somebody, I'm a producer and I work with artists and stuff like that, and I was like, You know, some of these trends that we see are stupid. They're only trends because the person that started it had confidence. They confidently did something stupid, and everybody bit off of it. They made it look cool. That's what these companies, they know to go get an artist, go get somebody that has influence. Because even if our decision or what we get ready to do with the company looks stupid, it's going to look cool. And David had that same cool factor. He had that same influence. He stepped in front of a whole Israelite army and he said, I have confidence. I don't know, but I have confidence that I'm going to take this giant down. And God is saying, I want you to have confidence. Remind yourself that this is not the first time you faced a giant. Remind yourself that this is not the first time that I have faced a giant. I need you to silence the voice of fear. Anything that's just making you scared all the time, it's constantly putting fear into your head, it's constantly making your anxiety go up. Yeah, cut that off. If you need to get off Facebook for a season, get off Facebook. You're not going to like it anyway. You go on there and see people complain, and all you do is complain back. And you see everybody just arguing over what's going on. Listen, take precaution, do what you need to do, and keep it moving. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love and a sound mind and power. Thank you, babe. Love. That means from this day forward, I ain't arguing with nobody. I ain't no scientist. I ain't no doctor. So what's the point of me giving statistics? But what I will do is take precaution. Simple as that. Whether you believe in it or not, just take precaution. That's the love part. I'm not going to disrespect nobody else because they believe something different than me about this. That's the love part, y'all. That's the love part. I'm not going to jump in nobody else's comments and start arguing with them because they think something. That's the love part. That's what God gave us. And a sound mind. You know what that is? That's precaution. I'm going to use my head and I'm going to wash my hands. And I'm not going to go to places that's crowded. It don't mean you weak. It don't mean you a sheep. Y'all know what y'all hearing online. It don't mean you scared. It don't mean you full of fear. It's called using your head and taking precaution. And I'm not about to argue with you because you choose to do the opposite. Love and a sound mind and power to face your giant. To say, I don't know how I'm going to beat him, but I know I'm going to beat him. So whatever giant you face in your life, have the confidence in God. Have the confidence in yourself, knowing that you're going to defeat this giant. You're going to defeat this giant. Cut off whatever you need to cut off. Have faith in his faithfulness. See God in the fight. Don't see it as a loss. See it as an opportunity. Don't see it as business or life going down. See it as things just shifting. And I guarantee you'll be able to get some sleep at night. Can we give God some praise in here?
Come on, you hear a message like that, and it'll be easy to agree. Okay, there's some fears that need to be dealt with. But if you don't do anything about it, like this week, you can still be living with that same fear in months. And I love that he talked about giants because we have the ability to defeat some of the giants in our lives so that our kids and our grandkids don't have to. But that requires discipline. That requires you going home today and writing down some of your fears. Okay, we all got them, myself included. Write them down, because if it's not written, it's not real. You'll just constantly focus about it. And then write God's truth over those fears. Focus on Jesus. And then love. Man, it's a strong challenge, D. I appreciate it. That's not an easy message to preach. But fear got jacked up when they gave it the name fear, because every name must bow at the name of Jesus, and we can walk confident in that. I hope you're blessed this week, church. Don't forget, dudes, we're meeting this Friday. Come hang out. Come on, one of the people you might need for this next season of life is in the relationship that you potentially gonna meet on Friday night. So come on out, connect with us. We're going to have a good time. It's going to be amazing. We love you, church. Know, as always, you're loved, and there's nothing you can do about it. We'll see you next week.